What's happening, my friend?
Good morning. Good to see you.
You know, that story you were just telling me, people are such fucking assholes.
It is a result of so just to fill everybody in a little bit without going through all the details. Got a call from a homeowner on my cell phone at 6:30 at night.
But to be fair, you called him from your cell phone.
I did. I called him from my cell phone, and he didn't answer his phone. So I then called him back from the office phone. So the call started out with, "Hey, I got a missed call on my phone and your number." And I'm like, "Yeah, who are you?" I go, "I don't remember calling you." And he had not heard the message that I called back on the office phone.
Of course.
So the call started out awkward. The guy is a jerk, and so then it ended off with me telling him, "Hey, look, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just trying to help." And he's like, "Well, do you want to call me back tomorrow when you're getting paid?" And I ended up going, "No, because your attitude sucks. I'm never calling you."
Which I love that you said that, because I instantly had flashes of the pool story when you got into it with the security guards.
No.
But people are such, I mean, over the phone, people are tough guys. You get them in person and they just crumble.
That's part of it, you know. And I'm not a big fan of losing my temper with people like that.
You sure?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I am a fan of it.
You do it, but you're not a fan of it.
Well, here's the thing. I think maybe I wouldn't have done it or years ago or something, but at this point, I truly don't give a shit. I mean,
I think that's a good attitude to have.
Yeah, if you're going to be an asshole to me, I'm going to give it back to you just as hard. And so if you want to be nice, if you want to try to accept my help and let me answer your questions or whatever, great. If you want to be a jerk, not on my time, right?
Is that would you say that encounter is kind of more the exception lately? Or are you seeing?
No, it's the exception. I mean, you don't really run into that many people that are that confrontational. But, I mean, some people just live their life that way, right?
Yeah.
I don't ever start out that way. It's like something happens and, and I mean, I just don't start out coming into an encounter with anybody.
You'd hope not.
Well, I hope not.
And you hope they don't either.
But I am quick. I mean, I've always had a bit of a temper, and I am quick to become irritated and then put out. And then, but like this particular person, I just think this is even his phone message that I got earlier in the day was like, this is such and such, and I am not available to answer calls at this time.
That was his voicemail.
That's
greeting?
His voicemail. Who gives a fuck, right? I didn't ask you.
What the fuck?
Just whatever. So,
should we play his voicemail greeting?
Oh my God, that would be great. Hook it up and play it over the air. He says his name, otherwise I would.
Yeah, I don't know. That kind of shit bugs me. It's people just. It's the whether it's the road rage. Listen, you're no angel, of course.
No, not me.
But still, people are tough guys that on the phone, text messaging, emails. But you get them in person. You should offer to go meet him and bitch slap him.
I have his address.
That'd be good.
I mean, here's what I would advise. You don't know me. You don't know that I'm an old fart now and probably not capable.
Is that part of the appeal? Like, in other words, does that give you more strength over the phone when they don't know you're an old guy?
Well, I don't know what I sound like on the phone. All I know is I know the guy's address. So if I was him, I'd be a little more careful with who I was being an asshole to, right?
Do you think he thinks he's a legitimate tough guy?
Hard to say. He doesn't seem very self-aware.
But, I mean, as we've established, you've had a whole host of medical tests, and all the results say that you're basically like a 30-year-old, and, you have all this strength that you're like Superman, so you could go out there and rough him up if you needed to.
Is that for Debbie's benefit? Because I don't remember any of my doctors actually saying that. Yeah. Now, you know what? I was just telling you that I've had a bunch of medical. This has been the year of kind of catch up on checkups and things like that. And, I've seen a cardiologist. I've had a stress test. I'm going to get a colonoscopy. That might be too much information, but, I mean, it's all kind of routine stuff. And so far, and I've had a prostate situation, and it's all resolved well, so I'm very happy. like I said earlier to you, Travis, off the air, the careless way I've lived my life with some of my early choices regarding food intake and recreation and so forth. I'm pretty happy with the current state of my health at 65. So I think now I've made some changes over the last few years, regarding how much meat I eat and stuff like that. So cholesterol, which is if you do damage to yourself by having high cholesterol, you develop a lot of problems in your arteries and veins and it's hard to undo.
Can you undo it? How much time do you need to undo stuff like that?
So I talked to the cardiologist today, and I have a little bit of blockage in my carotid arteries, but it's not actionable at this point. And so he said, hey, with low cholesterol, watching that and diet and exercise, you might be able to reverse it. And,
can you reverse it?
Yeah.
Or is it like climate change? You can't really reverse it, but you can just make it not worse.
Somewhat reverse it is what he said. I mean, you know what happens when you have too much cholesterol or diabetes in your arteries is that the cholesterol clumps up inside your arteries, and then high blood sugar causes those clumps to actually burn into your arteries, and it causes blockages that catch more cholesterol. It's kind of a compounding problem. And so my meat intake has been quite a bit lowered over the last few years, and my bad cholesterol is half of what it could be. So everybody's pleased about that. So the point of that is it doesn't appear that I am currently adding to any kind of artery blockage issues through too high cholesterol, which is a good thing. If I could bring my weight down a little bit and watch the sugar better, I think that'll be everything I could possibly do to make my artery situation as good as it could be. And that's encouraging and a little bit inspiring. If the doctor said, well, man, you got a lot of blockages and I don't think I don't think you got enough. Yeah, you're fucked. You don't have enough time to fix it. I don't think. I think that would be very depressing. So I'm happy.
But you're a smart guy. You always have been. When you said something about your reckless behavior and all the bad choices that you made food wise, and another.
I was a dumb shit.
Yeah, but you knew. I'm sure that you knew. We all do, right? Don't you think? We know what we're putting into our bodies. We know it's bad. We do it anyway.
Yeah,
and we just think that we have time on our side to reverse it when we get older.
Well,
I guess.
I think I would truthfully say that besides continuing to probably make some, questionable choices as far as what I eat, other than
what's questionable that you eat now?
Well, I probably eat way too much sugar, and I have some issues with high blood sugar, and so those are questionable choices. But, other things like, recreational, drugs.
Marijuana.
I don't drink. I don't use recreational
Coke?
drugs.
Do you still drink
Coca-Cola,
Coke?
Diet Coke? I prefer Diet Coke over Pepsi. No, I don't.
You don't drink soda?
I do drink soda, yeah. But
every day?
Diet? No, not
Isn't
at all.
that the diet soda is the one with the fake sugar? That's worse for you than real Coke?
That's some kind of feeble fantasy of a senile mind.
Is that not right?
I don't think so. Sounds like propaganda from sugar companies.
What is it? Aspartame, right?
No. That is an artificial sweetener, but I've had them all. Saccharin.
Wasn't that a big thing? Who the fuck was it? Was it Cheney or some? There was some one of these fuckheads not too long ago that we didn't have aspartame in like the energy drinks and shit like that, and then they allowed it. Am I off base here? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm not familiar with the story. Here's the thing. Here's what little I do know about artificial sweeteners. I don't want to know much about it because the worst idea I could have would be to like drink sugar soda. Those are completely, totally empty calories.
Yeah.
But
you do it.
Bad, but I don't drink regular soda ever of any kind. I was brought up on diet soda, so any soda that has sugar in it seems overly sweet to me. And that's just because my mom always thought I had a weight problem. Even when I see pictures when I was a little kid, and I remember, so it's a mind fuck when you're taken into Sears at 8 and you have to go to the Husky section. Fuck you, Sears, and your Husky shit.
You would benefit now, like if you were a kid now, because you go into all the stores, Target or whatever, and all of the mannequins, they have what they call, I think they still call them, plus size, and they have people in pictures that are
bigger.
Yeah. Of all age groups too.
Well, I mean, it's a mind fuck, really. There was no consciousness of this at all. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter what kind of stupid names you use for the clothes and this and that. You know, are we fucking over some little kid's mind because he has to just put a fucking size on it and shut up, right?
But you overcame. You're all right.
I'm fine. It doesn't matter. I don't care anymore.
You ran out of care early in life.
Like I don't know if I said this before in this program, but let's see. Let's call that 40. I'm 75 pounds lighter than I was at one time.
Back when you were drinking.
No.
Oh.
No.
And smoking.
Was I drinking? Maybe I was. It was a while ago. It was 15 years ago, and I took the weight off. And I took that 75 pounds off, plus a little bit more, probably closer to 120 or something. So I'm up a little bit from that, but I'm still 75 pounds under my highest weight. So that's 75 pounds of permanent weight loss. I mean, if you keep something off for 15 years, that's permanent.
I would think even less than that.
Right. So, I'm happy about that. Could I lose another? I mean, I could probably lose another 50 pounds with no problem.
Were you monitoring that? We talked, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago about when you were walking a lot during COVID. Did you monitor that when you were walking? Did that do you any good weight-wise?
My weight?
Yeah.
It didn't appear to be creating any weight loss.
You weren't buying new pants, is what you're saying?
No. But I wasn't, and I hope to, establish some kind of regular walking routine in the future. But probably that's going to be after I retire because it's really hard for me to figure out how to do that when I was working from home for months on end, say between Christmas and March last year. It was easy to go out every day at noon. The weather was temperate. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't cold, and I'm in California. So, the weather is always kind of, the same. But I don't want to walk if it's summertime. That's just too hot.
And it was good because you were out there watching all of the yard signs, Trump versus Biden. You saw the "Don't Tread on Me" flags on your neighbors' houses.
So funny.
Good observations.
They're so funny. Yeah, there was a guy that I actually saw on TikTok who turns out to live in my neighborhood who had the Trump lost LOL signs in his yard and shit. And that was funny. And the BLM, but he was not a black guy. And so turns out he's a pretty well-off guy. And then we were walking one day, and I seen him out in his yard, and I'm like, oh, my God, you're the guy on TikTok. And he comes over and talks to us, and he's like, I am. I go, wow, your neighbors fucking hate you. And he's like, I know. Is it great? I go, it is great. Well, we love you. You're great. So, yeah, that was interesting. I mean, I hope to do that again. I didn't do it for weight loss. I did it for, probably vascular health or, it's probably good. I mean, it's a good way to.
Just to be outside.
Just to be able
Vitamin
to walk.
D,
Yeah,
be out in the
all of
sunshine.
that. Yeah.
That's what they say is get outside every day.
Yeah.
Even for a few minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do plan on doing that again, but it is back kind of more in my regular work routine for the time being. And so, I'm just not sitting at home at noontime like I was, during that time period. So we'll get back to it. I'm not stressing about it one way or the other. Exercise never been, when I worked
not a priority.
When I worked out in the field, it was hard work, it was hard physical work, and I didn't have to worry about anything. And I was much fatter before I started that kind of work.
You could eat anything, and you were eating goat meat tacos. And
yeah, right off the cart, right off the head, the engine in the truck engine. But we'll get back to it. Exercise, to go exercise artificially has never been high on my priority list. It's not really natural for people to exercise. That's, we have changed our life so much from where humans began, where you got all the exercise you needed every day, just finding the fucking food to eat.
Well, that's okay. That's an interesting topic because you talk about it's not natural. It's not a natural phenomenon.
It's not a natural thing.
But what defines natural? Like, don't you think? So you're going back tens of thousands of years or more, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean,
I would think so.
If you're calling Homo sapiens, from that point forward, the hunter-gatherers, right? I guess we were hunter-gatherers before that with Neanderthals.
I'm not talking about Neanderthals, no.
Yeah.
But even Homo sapiens were hunter-gatherers.
Right. So obviously there's major shifts in evolution with technology and advancement and tools and shelter and agriculture and all that stuff. So over time, as I guess it would be the rise of agriculture, right? And as we became more sedentary and not moving around, and so your day-to-day life, if you still were, not hunting and gathering, maybe you were still hunting, but you also had farming, so you had harvest, which was more seasonal.
There was work involved. Raising crops and stuff. I don't think it was the constant long distance walking that hunter gatherers probably engaged in, but it was still work. It was still not sitting on your ass in an office in front of a computer all day long.
But how much of it was the actual work of the hunting and the gathering versus you didn't fucking find anything on your hunts and your gathers, so you didn't have any food?
Well, calorie
deficit.
Calorie deficit is one thing. I just think that, a lot has changed. I mean, I just take a look around, not you, Travis, but just take a look around at most of the country, and pretty much we're just a country of fat ass.
This country, in particular. I mean, it's been a while since I've been out of the country, but
I don't think in Bangladesh they're all that fat. Well, you don't have any food.
Or Afghanistan. That's a terrible story. Obviously we've talked about the troop withdrawal in Afghanistan, but the aftermath of what's going on there, the thing that really breaks my heart, and
I can only imagine there's famine.
Exactly. And, listen, I'm the asshole on the podcast, I guess, with my stance on a lot of things.
I don't think that's the case at all.
But I do have a moral compass, as I like to point out from time to time. Yeah. But these stories about the children and the lack of food, and I heard something yesterday or the other day about, families selling their children. I think they still have what's it called is it a caste system when you're marrying off your children, say your daughter to another family for their sons, and it's a prearranged marriage. I forget what its official term.
In so much of history that kind of stuff was, and depending on the culture, nothing was really the way it is, the life we know. Freedom, death. That's really a modern concept.
And I wish that was the actual concept.
That's all very interesting. If you stop down and think about all the let's talk about Afghanistan for a second. I guarantee you that all Americans, it has nothing to do with either whatever side of the aisle you are, whatever your stupid politics are on either side. I think that all Americans have sympathy and would want to try to help anybody in Afghanistan that they could, but we really can't, right? We can't send in humanitarian aid because it won't get anywhere it's going.
The worst part.
We can't send in our own people to distribute it because they'll be killed or captured or kidnapped or something. It's just so I think when you see political issues around the world that are causing that make humanitarian aid for more prosperous places impossible, that's the sad part. It's not that we don't care. It's that we don't see. I don't think Americans see a way to help that problem. If there's famine or food issues in Afghanistan, after we've left, if it's gotten worse when we're not there, and I can imagine it has, we can't really fix that. And
that's the hardest part, I think, is the helplessness. And so I don't think all Americans feel that way. There are, of course, are people in, as you like to point out, the southern states or maybe the more red states. Remember they refused to take in, refugees, and we don't want these planes to land here, and we're not vetting these people, and they're all terrorists, and blah, blah, blah. But I think I hope, the minority viewpoint. And I think the remainder of Americans feel like they wish they could do something.
Sure. But what's going on in Africa, right? Isn't that just as bad or worse than anything that's going on in the Middle
Ethiopia?
East?
Yeah.
There are never-ending continuous civil wars, and they ebb and flow, get worse, get better.
Exactly.
Ethiopia, I don't really have all the details, so I'm not suggesting we discuss it in depth, but I know you follow African politics and things a little more closely because when things are back to normal, you're likely to go there again. But I think it's bad and been bad in many places on that continent for a long time. And I know we've probably done tons as a country to send aid there and help when we can. But then when you have constant civil war, it's not safe. You don't want to see, you think back, for those of you that are old enough to remember, when North Korea took a bunch of hostages during the Jimmy Carter administration, and it ruined his presidency and opened the door for more.
You think that's what it was?
Well, I think that was
I thought
a
that's
big
because
part
he
of
just wore sweater vests all the time, and people thought he was a sissy.
I
And he
think
carried his own luggage.
I personally, obviously, I would think that Jimmy Carter was a fabulous president, right? And still is a very
Seems like a good
exceptional
human.
person, yeah. Did he have a great presidency? I mean, I think there's probably a lot to discuss there. I'm not an expert enough on it. It was a long time ago, not before my time by any stretch of the imagination, but before my time of really being involved. What I do remember is we came to know as the hostage crisis. And I remember how frustrating that seemed, because I think up until then you would have thought that no country anywhere would have the ability to take that many hostages, and we couldn't go get them, right? And then there was the Iran. Let's not get this confused.
Yeah, because I thought you were talking
This
about
is
the
the
Iran
Iran
hostage,
hostage
which
crisis,
was like
right?
70-something days. Is that right?
Yeah, was that the Carter one? Because it wasn't North Korea, it was Iran.
Yes,
I think, right. So, I mean, it's just like, okay, well, and then there was a failed military rescue, right? That Carter
and we have a
greenlit.
lot of those.
And so all of that combined, and then it went on so long.
It's much easier in the video games.
Yeah, do you remember that in Iran they released the hostages the day Reagan won?
That's right.
So I think like the day after inauguration or something, they simply would not release them while Carter was the president. So that turned out to be a huge victory for Reagan, and the rest is history, as they say. But it's just that we I don't think we want to put ourselves in those kind of positions. When you hear about missionaries in some of these war-torn countries, they get taken prisoner. My thought is always, what the fuck are you doing there? Why are you there? And then why should we care? You went there on your own. Why should we care that you've been taken hostage? You shouldn't be there in the first place.
Well, that's a bigger issue. We talked about that, and we continue to talk about that here in the United States with mostly our southern border and refugees from not just Mexico, but all of South America that attempt to come to the U.S.
Well, the latest group have been Haitian refugees coming up through the southern border, and they've been on the road years. They've been out of Haiti for
they've been hunting and gathering
years.
for a long fucking time. They probably have a huge calorie deficit.
It's just amazing. I mean, I think it's. I mean,
isn't the fundamental question?
Can't we just take them all in? What's the difference?
Well, you say we, but even bigger than that, isn't the bigger issue fundamentally the free movement of people, around the world? And so your point of, well, why are they there? Why don't you leave? And I think in many cases they can't leave, right? Because where could they go? If you're in a landlocked country, where can you go? If there's an ocean, how do you get where you're going? Well, and the point is, when you get there, are they going to let you in?
I said, why are our people there?
Oh, why are our people there?
I mean, when we have people,
we're trying to do good.
Well, sometimes we are, and then sometimes there are people that are in these far-flung places trying to with their own agenda, right? And it's often religious based, right? So
we got to get rid of the religions.
Not going there, but
we have to go there.
But I mean, as far as I think that got a little convoluted right there. Let's just make sure we don't misunderstand. I'm not saying so for the people that live in these hellholes around the world.
You're okay with them
I feel
staying.
bad for them. I mean, I feel bad for them. I think I told you the story about how when I was a little kid, I came to kind of understand early that I was very lucky to be a white guy in Southern California. Of all the places I could be, of all the kinds of people I could be, I really got all the breaks, right? So not rich. Could it have been better? My parents could have been fabulously wealthy. I could have been better looking. I could have been skinny my whole life. There's a lot
you
of
said you had to shop in the Husky section.
Yeah. So, but all in all, pretty damn lucky and fortunate, right? And so, but you can't just, part of the liberal me that you probably don't like much is that if I could, I would just open the border, right? Just come on. Would anybody that's not happy where you're at, come here. But
how would we handle the traffic?
Well,
you already hate the traffic the way it is now.
That is the problem. I mean, the reality of that is that you can't just there's a lot of open land in the United States, but
how do you know? You don't ever go there.
Well, frankly, I think there's enough open land in California that you could put all the dispossessed people of the entire world in it. But unfortunately, a lot of that open land is mountains and shit where nobody could live.
That's
right?
not going to tip the axis of the earth a little bit if we're all in one spot.
I don't think there's that many humans yet.
But
so.
you say that, and it's. I'm not too far off from that in the sense that our let's just talk about the U.S.
Yeah.
The immigration policy of the United States is at the very least antiquated and needs to be turned on its head. It's expensive. It's time consuming. It's probably
it doesn't accomplish what we want it to accomplish, right?
Well, what is that? I mean, that's the other biggest.
What
point.
we want, what we should want from an immigration policy is to promote the immigration of people from around the world that have skills that will be beneficial to the country. And along with that, some percentage of the people that we allow to immigrate to the United States should be strictly based on humanitarian and probably political, asylum type situations. But here's the thing. Here's the bad policy. You have international policy, U.S. foreign policy with countries, and where we do things that either don't help alleviate or promote the bad situations, like gangs and corrupt governments and so forth, in places like Central America or Haiti and different places where that ends up with massive amount of people wanting to immigrate out of those places because the political situation is so bad. When you sit back and say, well, we're not fixing any of those, we're not helping any of those situations, that's not our problem, and then you also you close your borders, right, so that the people that are so negatively affected by that can't come here, then you're really part of the problem. So I mean,
and the truth is that the U.S. immigration policy really changes every time there's a new administration.
We can't, and that's true. I mean, sort of on the fringe, the edges of the policy. The basic policies are such in need of reform, and that just really isn't happening. They're not being modernized. And here's the thing: as U.S. citizens, we should want our U.S. immigration policy to be something that will accomplish what we want it to accomplish, and it's not. We're not getting
because we can't even agree on the rule set.
Yeah, it's just really tough, right? So, I mean, I think at some point the way the Trump administration went, without just taking another chance to take shots at the Trump administration, let's just look at it. It was a very regressive kind of immigration policy that he started out with from the very beginning, and that's because immigration was a low-hanging fruit at the time he came on the scene that he knew he could use to promote himself. But having said that, the policy does suck and it does need reform. But the regressive immigration policies of the Trump administration were not accomplishing what we wanted to accomplish. We want immigration. We want people with skills and motivation and good people from all over the world to immigrate into the United States. It is what has always made us as strong as we've always been. And if we stop doing that, it will hurt us.
Are you aware, because I don't know, do we have a quota for the number of people we take in, whether it's total number, is it by country?
Yeah, I'm not overly familiar with all those, details, but there are numbers, right?
Do we have to have so many people die before we can bring in new people?
I don't think so. I think that, I just think it's all antiquated, like you said at the beginning, right? I think it's been so mired in political problems that we just haven't been able to make any progress at all.
So what kind of things do you think, because I think we don't have an agreed upon set of standards that says, not only is immigration good, but here's the type of people and the skill set and all the things that you mentioned that we really need to go after. So what do those look like for you? What do we need? Like people who are engineers? Do we need people who can come up with alternative energy sources. I mean, what are the hot buttons for you?
Well, as it turns out, I mean, we need all those things, right? And we also need labor, just basic people that are willing to do labor that more established, longer established U.S. citizens appear not to be willing to do. I mean, the old thing was, hey, by letting in people without documentation that aren't immigrating here legally. I mean, in California, we've always had seasonal workers, migrant workers, and programs for that, because there just are not enough people willing to do agricultural work in California to keep up with the demand from. I mean,
and the governor's
is a very big agricultural
for now,
state.
and the governor's solution to that is to get rid of agriculture, but that's another story.
I don't know about that.
He doesn't seem to know that you need water to grow food and that we need food.
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, I think it's I don't know, the whole movement of people around the world is just it's a crazy topic when you think about how that has been restricted, and not just because of COVID. I'm talking about over time, politics, dictators, military regimes around the world that either go into a territory by force or erect, borders and walls by force and keep people out. It's just wild.
We are so in different regions of the world, we are not as similar as you might think we are, in the sense that, I mean, the United States, Japan, parts of Europe may represent the most technologically advanced places, societies on the planet, and other places, the sub-Saharan African continent, with the exception of South Africa, appears to not be representative of that, right? You have a lot of places in South America where there are large populations, which is not everywhere, right? There's a lot of non-populated area in South America. Although, we seem intent on deforesting our last stretches of rainforest, which, we're worried about climate change and political upheaval and Trump, and we're not involved, or don't seem to care which dictator is cutting down the last of the rainforest, which will have a huge effect on humans all around the world.
And you're right. It appears that we don't care, because we just are on the heels of this climate summit, which we talked a little bit about it, but at the very end,
fires are burning right now in the rainforest. I mean,
and at the very end, it seemed like there were agreements on the table that were rescinded, or language that was changed that really altered what these countries are really going to do as far as meaningful reduction in emissions.
I think I agree with all that, and I think what I've seen as far as worldwide climate issue things, like whatever the names are of the organizations, whatever organizations Trump pulled out of or whatever, that's obviously not the way to deal with it. I mean, do we like everything do we think these things are accomplishing enough? It doesn't appear we do, but certainly not participating is not part of the answer. It's part of the problem. Is every liberal Democrat satisfied with everything that's coming out of what was the name of the last one? COP26, whatever that means?
Of course they're not.
I don't think so, right? There's not enough, or it's too much, or whatever.
What do you make of this argument?
It's becoming politicized on an international basis, and that will choke off the
And this is why. It's because at the very end, I mean, the poorest of the countries in attendance basically stood up and said, hey, wait a minute. We believe we have an equal right to the technology that the rich countries all took advantage of over the last 200 years.
If you want to take till 2070 to deal with it, it's going to be too late. I don't give a shit how far behind the curve you are on development.
But the point is, that's their argument, right? And they got things changed to their advantage so that they could
nuke them.
So I guess that's the answer to my question. Do you think that that's not really a legitimate answer? That, hey, we're sorry that you guys weren't along for the ride from the start of the Industrial Revolution till now. This ride that really enriched all of our countries.
Well,
so sorry, you're just shit out of luck.
I don't know. Not really an expert on this field, but I will say
you don't have to be.
I think if
we're spitballing,
I get you. I think if the main thing is that everybody feels like it's fair, I think it's probably a loser. I mean, I don't know how many times you have to say it. Just everything is not fair, right? Just, I mean, young idealists and old fart liberals and everybody in between, things are just not always fair.
I agree with that.
Right.
Like, fairness to me doesn't mean sameness.
Yeah, well,
fairness means, justice.
Look, what's really the important thing? And I'm holding up my hands now like a scale, right?
Yeah, the scales of justice.
The scales
exactly.
of justice.
That's fairness.
Is fairness to countries that are behind that technological curve or the development curve or what we would refer to as third or fourth world countries or something, is being fair to them more important than fixing the problem that's going to kill off
can
the
you do
entire
both?
species?
So keep your hands up, your scale hands.
My hands are up.
Is fairness then the rich countries doing more, sacrificing more, burning less fossil fuels, while simultaneously allowing the poor countries to continue to burn coal and other things to advance their societies and advance capitalism?
I'm going to say,
is that fair?
If you can do that, and if you can be fair in that way, and still achieve the things that you feel need to be achieved regarding the climate, okay, then fine. But I mean, we need to look at it in reality. So I'm not sure which countries it was Malaysia or something. Somebody
India
saying,
was
hey,
a big one.
I need till India.
Yeah,
India. India wants till 2070 before they start curbing before they, I think it was carbon neutral, right? Look, if you think that India can if you think you can give India till 2070 to become carbon neutral, for those of you that know what the hell that means, and that's going to be okay, fine. But I don't think that's going to be okay. It's not likely that we need to be carbon neutral by 2050, and they need to be carbon neutral by 2070. If we're not carbon neutral by 2050.
So that's the great debate. So, can we allow countries like India to go to 2070 and then we sacrifice more to offset what they're continuing to burn?
Well,
I mean that we're not scientists, but that's kind of the logic, right?
I mean, can we allow? I don't think it's up to us.
You said nuke them.
Yeah, nuke them. I think that there's a bit of. I mean, unfortunately, my cynicism is probably going to show through here a little bit. I'm not overly confident that there's going to be enough worldwide cooperation for this in a variety of reasons.
I think so
because
too.
Some of it is not going to seem fair, and that's going to stall the conversations and the progress, and that's going to because here's what it is: you're an American environmental activist, and you're listening to this conversation, not us, but the world conversation on it. India wants till 2070 to do something that the entire world agrees if we don't do it by 2030, it's too late. How does that make any sense? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that acceptable to the U.S. environmentalists?
And if it's not, what do you do about it? What's the greater?
What do you do about it?
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
India's got nuclear weapons. You can't force them to do anything. So this is a matter of working together to change people's hearts and minds, making the case. That's not a fast process. Is it possible that we've waited too long? Only time will tell, and I'm not overly confident.
But is it kind of like your cholesterol situation? Like, I mean, are we really saying that the origin of this is...
I'm winning the climate battle in my body.
No, you are, I know, and that's what I'm thinking. But this whole thing really starts with the Industrial Revolution, right? From that period of time, right? We agree on that. Kind of going forward, peaking in the mid 1900s, and then really becoming a topic of conversation in Western civilized countries in the 70s, maybe.
While we were having the Industrial Revolution and moving modern technology ahead at lightning speed, right, doubling and tripling our technological capabilities every 10 years, India was working on being the largest henna exporter on the planet. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, they were building rickshaws.
It's not, is that India or China?
I don't know.
Japan. I don't know, but I mean, it's just like, I don't know that there's anything we can do about that. I mean, the different technological advancement around the world, of particular areas and regions around the world, is not a matter of political will, particularly, and it kind of is what it is. So here in 2021, as you know, as we see Pacific Islands disappearing before our very, very eyes.
Do we?
Yeah. And
Which ones?
Well, we hear here's the activist chant from Pacific Island nations. We won't drown. We will fight. Okay. So, another 10 years of not giving a shit. And, many of the islands that make up the island nations of the world, they're
not going to be gone in 10 years.
Well, some of them will. Some of them are
these aren't islands. These little atolls.
Level.
They're not really islands.
I mean, people live on them, right? And
that's their problem. Get off that little island.
I mean, that's kind of how India is going to look at us, right? Hey, look, we're going to take till 2070 to become carbon neutral, and if you guys don't make it till then, who gives a shit?
So is that their definition of fighting?
Well, the problem is they're going to go down with it. Here's in India, right? The effects of climate change are not going to there. It's not like, hey, we can take till 2070 because the effects of climate change are not going to hit us till then.
Well, they know that it's hitting them.
The effects of climate change are going to make the technological advancement of India impossible. They're already being highly affected by monsoon storms that are out of control, that are dumping so much more water and flooding out large swaths of the country. They are going to be as much or as negatively affected by climate change, or more negatively affected than, say, the United States.
Well, that's true, but it's even more so on the ground level. I think this was in India that I read last week that they're debating a climate lockdown because the air quality in some cities is so bad that they're literally going to lock down. Take the example from COVID, which is the fucking, as soon as you open that Pandora's box, but close schools, close businesses, tell people to work from home and, whatever, a week, 10 days or something.
What we saw during the year of COVID was a lot of environmental
irrational groupthink.
Okay. There's that. But what we did see was a lot of issues, kind of go into remission or go away a little bit, right? Things that
it's like you stop eating meat for a year. Oh, suddenly I feel healthy.
My cholesterol level is good. So, I mean, I don't know. Is that a reasonable idea for India? I mean, I guess it depends on how bad the air quality is, right? I mean, it's fine to say we're not going to be carbon neutral, or we're not going to take the same drastic steps that we think the United States and China and Japan need to take regarding climate change, because we want time to catch up. While you guys were polluting the environment, we were an agricultural third world country, and we weren't.
Yeah, we want our chance
in the plunder. Well,
do you think this is going to be?
They're going to rethink it, to be honest with you, and I think that's this year's climate conference nonsense. And I think that the environmental effects from climate change in India are going to change their minds for them. So, and it ain't going to take no 50 years.
So go all the way back to how we started this conversation. We're hunting, we're gathering, we're starving. We're slim. Yeah. And we have good cholesterol. But it's a lot of damn work to dig that hole. It's a lot of work to chase down that animal and kill it. So we have advancement in technology. And that's really, broadly speaking, how we got here. It's a rapid advancement of technology globally that it turns out, a lot of which is bad for the world that we live in.
Well,
so how do we advance technology in a way that everybody on this planet could take advantage of it?
Well, you've read the entire thing, and I've read a large part of some nonfiction work that kind of speaks to this. I mean, and the short version of the story is that once you're not hunting and gathering and you start to develop an agricultural society, you're then in one place raising crops, and that then for the first time in human existence you have free time, and that allows you to think more and deeper about more subjects, and you start to advance technologically and intellectually. right? And so I don't think you can turn that back. I mean, so there really is no place.
We've tasted the forbidden fruit.
Well, I mean, I think, we tend to look at these things like, so is that a bad thing? Is it bad that humans grew larger brains and got better nutrition and stuff? It's not. It's all a matter of what you decide to do with it.
So let me ask you this. Things like, your 1960s muscle car, that gets 4 miles a gallon, and you can't have a society of everybody driving those cars today, and you can't burn coal and all those things. Are those really the problems, or are there just too many of us, burning bad fuel and emitting fossil fuels into the environment?
You are any chance you get to try to justify some kind of what do we want to call it? It's not genocide, because you're not suggesting we just pick a particular group of people and
I can see this.
them.
You're a science fiction guy, right? So I can just see this storyline of this, fantasy apocalyptic future where there's some global takeover of society, and there's this screening and there's this vetting process, and all of us are given a ranking system of whether or not we're worthy of this planet, and then there's a thinning of the herd.
What is the science fiction thing? Something is food.
Soylent Green is made of people.
Soylent Green is food. Soylent Green is people.
Yeah,
that's right. I mean, the book's already been written, right? So at some point, you get so many people, you start grinding them up for food, right? And then you don't.
Aren't we there?
There's a movie, and there's a series, but I recommend the movie. For the short version of that is called Snowpiercer. So if you haven't seen that movie, and there's recently on one of the streaming channels, there was some kind of series version of this, but it's such a depressing movie. There's a train, post-apocalyptic Earth is frozen. Everything is frozen. And the entire population of the world is put onto a train. The entire population that's left of the world.
How old is this movie?
10 years maybe. It's around.
Okay.
It's on every streaming site, or you can rent it. Snowpiercer. And it's got a lot of people in it that are big now that weren't big when they made it. You put the entire world's population on a train. It's very much a
big train.
What's the word? Very much a symbolic of human society. It's a very big train. It has an engine that runs. They figured out some kind of
it's not solar, right? We're not getting any sun.
Not solar, but here's the thing: the food. Where's the food coming from? So, the rich people on the planet, the privileged people are up at the front of the train. The engine's in the front. The inventor is in the front, and then the train is kind of the higher class people. The more rich people are on the front of the train, and then the back of the train is the dregs of society, right? And it runs that way. And in the back of the train, you're just eating this cube of shit for food, right? And they got a name for it. But it turns out to just be processed, dead human flesh, right? So it's very depressing.
What are the people in the front?
All these books you're talking about have already been written, my friend.
So I'm not looking to, author a new book, but what I'm saying, excuse me, is these ideas are out there. So who's to say this won't turn into reality at some point, where there's some global takeover of all of us people for the sole purpose of deciding which one of us gets to live, which ones of us get to participate in the new future that is supposed to be healthy for the planet.
I think that would be inevitable if you let that happen, right? I mean,
could the Chinas and the Indias of the world essentially? Here's where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
I used to think that maybe the demise of human civilization would come similarly to how the dinosaurs ended. Some, meteor or something from outer space, maybe the sun would burn out and die. Who knows? I never really thought that it would probably come from humans killing one another, but I think that's more likely now. And I think that window is shorter than what I ever thought it would be. Like, maybe, do you really think that us, these humans, we can go another couple hundred years? Are we really going to figure this out together?
Sort of don't care. I mean, I would like to think so. So, I mean, what's human history that goes back, that we really know much about is a couple thousand years old, maybe
like 10,000,
2,400 years old, right?
No, we got more than that.
That we know about. I mean, So how far back before, Christ, supposedly, which is how we mark time before and after, right?
3,000 years BC?
BC,
at
okay,
least.
so 3,000 years. So that's 5,000 years of human history. Everything before Christ is a little sketchy, right? We barely know anything about Egyptians. And past that, we have given names to some relics we found of previous civilizations, Sumerians and some other shit I can't remember. And we don't know much about them, right? So, how long can it go? I mean, that's a fairly long time. So do I think at this stage that we're only looking at another 200 years? That doesn't seem very likely.
But look at the pace of advancement and technology during those 5,000 years. It was pretty slow. Things really didn't pick up. People didn't move as quickly as they move now until the last couple hundred years.
We've also, we have effectively doubled our lifespan. So, I mean, we think about it now, it's like people think, wow, if I could live 200 years, that would be awesome. And if you could live 200 years in good health and, be able to survive and everything, I suppose it would be great. But I mean, we have effectively doubled our life. I mean, the average lifespan now is up into the 80 years old or something for men. And it certainly was 40 years was the expected lifespan. Go back
but you
to
went
just
out on
100
top.
Years. Did you? I don't know. So, I mean, I think those are valid concepts and they're interesting. I don't think anything's a foregone conclusion. I mean, I think overall, there are certainly shitty places left in the world, but to some extent, those places have always been shitty, right? And so there are other places which are fantastic compared to them. And I think we should be
like what, California?
Well, yeah, like the United States, Western human civilization, and certainly not exclusive to Western. I mean, there are certainly fabulously wonderful places in Asia and in every part of the world. But then, they're offset by terrible places too, right? So I don't know that I'm as cynical about that as where you're coming from, it sounds. And I don't know what it would mean. I mean, I don't know where the benefit comes from deciding that, well, there's not much chance that this is going to work out.
What I'm thinking, like that's the example you gave about these little islands in the Pacific that essentially might end up underwater, and those people are not going to let that happen without a fight. I could just see that happening on a larger scale with places like India and China and South Africa and elsewhere, where they're simply saying, hey, we can't afford to do what you're asking us to do, and therefore we won't participate. And maybe in the beginning we'll give you lip service, but when change really is demanded to be pulled through, we're going to draw a line in the sand and we're going to do things our way, and then we're going to be outcasts.
That is certainly a possibility, right? I also am hopeful that in the face of failing, if we fail as humans to effect changes that will aid us in averting the adverse effects of climate change, that through behavioral changes, through large scale society, buy-ins, or because certain places on the planet will not cooperate. I mean, India has a very large population. If they continue to industrialize and move ahead technologically, industrially, the same way that much of the Western world has, and if their feeling is that we have a right to do this, and we don't care if it puts us over the top or over the
right.
tips the scale, then that may be the motivator, the catalyst that forces humanity to make the technological advances that it could take to offset the climate issues a different way. It's not impossible to extract carbon out of the atmosphere artificially. It's just not cheap, right? We already have the technology. We can already extract carbon out of the thin air.
Well, maybe in small scale or in a lab, but you can't do it in a global scale as of yet. To make a meaningful,
it is a matter of scale.
Yeah, it's a scale. Right? Yeah. So let me get deep.
Well, will we make the choice to scale up the carbon collection because we have no other choice?
That's a good question. We're certainly not there now. I think the answer to that question today is no. We won't scale that up because we're not.
Well, we would like to have the populations of China, India,
Be smaller?
Pakistan, whatever. We'd like them to make the sacrifices that we were never willing to make so that we
Right.
don't have to do that. But they may not be willing to make it. And if that turns out to be the case, then we very possibly will then have the motivation and the will and scale up those technologies. And not only those, but here's the thing, right? Go back a few years, we had no carbon extraction technology. Now we do. And the reason is because there may be a need for it in the future. And so now we had it, didn't have it. Now we have it. Now it's a matter of scale. The hard part is going from not having it to having it, not scaling it up. That's easy.
So let me ask you, I'm going to get deep in the philosophical weeds here.
Go for it.
You said something about the success, of humans. Is the definition in your mind of success our continued existence? In other words, if we as humans have been around for 10,000 years or more, and we're around another 1,000 years, and then that's it, we're done, would we consider that a failure, or could we say, hey, we had a good run?
That's a good question. I mean, if we cease to exist at some point, then I think it's a failure. I mean, I mean, so, conversely, then does that mean, so if that's the definition of a failure, then success is that we don't cease to exist. But I think that has to be qualified, by something, right? I mean, do we exist in a dystopian future where we're enslaved by, the Trumpsters of the future?
Maybe we'll evolve and we'll be able to live in hotter temperatures, and maybe we'll have gills and we can live in the ocean as the seas rise. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
is that in the storybooks?
Waterworld,
right?
Yeah,
well,
right.
That was a terrible fucking movie.
Yeah. So, will we develop gills? I don't know.
That was a shit movie.
And Aquaman was a good movie.
I didn't see that one.
Oh, you haven't seen Aquaman?
So is this Marvel or is
Yeah.
this DC?
No, Aquaman is. Let me think. DC, not Marvel.
I don't know.
Yeah, DC, Superman, Aquaman, Batman. That's all the DC universe.
We were taught. You brought up superheroes,
Yeah.
and the guy with the 10
Thank God,
rings.
we're coming back down to. I'm too far out there.
Too far out in
Yeah.
the weeds today. Batman kind of got a shit deal because he really doesn't have any powers. I mean, he's really just a regular dude who's kind of a badass, and he has money, so he has cool toys and gadgets and shit. But I mean, he doesn't really, and he's a human, so he can get old and not be able to be such a badass.
But he's dark. No, I mean, I don't know how much Batman you've done, but there are, and then of course the 60s or whatever it was TV show with
with Fat Batman.
Fat Batman and
shopping in the Husky
and
section.
LBGTQ Robin,
right.
right? That's kind of a the
Adam West Batman.
Yeah, the Adam West Batman. But I mean, really, the Dark Knight, that version of Batman is a little different. So I don't know how familiar you are. He's a very dark and troubled.
Right.
He was a youth that was virtually damaged by,
And he was adopted,
killing
right?
of his parents. I don't know that he was adopted.
Wasn't he? Because his parents were killed when he was young.
Well, no, it was.
It was
his
the
parents
butler?
were rich already,
And Alfred, watched over him. Isn't that the story?
his father Wayne, whatever
Yes.
his name was, and his parents were killed in a robbery.
Yes.
Right, but they were already rich.
Yeah, but who watched him? He was young. Who raised him?
Well,
He was only a little
there
boy.
was Alfred.
That's
Yeah.
what I said. But he still didn't have powers.
No, he didn't have powers, but I mean, he's not. He is a dark, damaged figure.
So that
right?
makes him. He has
he's a dark, damaged figure that develops artificial means to cope with that, right? And yeah, it's not the superpower version, right? Of like Batman, who just has he's actually an alien, right?
Superman. You mean?
I mean, Superman is actually an alien, right?
Right.
So,
Is Batman the only one in the crop that doesn't have a power?
you've got, so on the Marvels, I mean, on the DC side, and I get confused. So on the DC side, you've got Wonder Woman.
She has powers.
Yeah, she's from a
Similar solar system as Superman?
No, she's in our. She's
that's Supergirl.
No, she's much like she is from. She is a Amazon. She's not from Amazon. I mean, like the store.
Yeah.
She is.
She's not a Jeff Bezos invention.
Remember the Superwoman and her this race. I don't even know how this works. All female Amazons live behind some screen that shields them from view from the rest of the world. There's a mythology that goes back on this, right? So, let me think here.
So, but these ones have powers.
Wonder Woman is which one is Wonder?
Is that Gal Gadot?
Isn't it? It's Gal Gadot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I just watched a movie last night on Netflix. Brand new movie. It's The Rock. It's Ryan Reynolds and it's Gal Gadot.
Oh, I've read this.
And was pretty good. It's very light. It's entertainment. It's a popcorn movie. It's a crime romp. Yeah, really good though. And she's very attractive in it, in a non Wonder Woman role.
Well, she's very attractive anyway. But the Wonder
right?
Woman was shit, right? Didn't you say the second one was terrible?
The newest one, yeah, that one was not good because the writing was terrible, right? Instead of exploring, what the possibilities of a female superhero. From the past in a modern world, We
need to slow these down. I said this last week. We're just making too many superhero movies. I can't keep up.
I don't think
need
so.
a break.
You can make them.
You're burning the climate up with these superhero movies.
I don't know about the climate. You have the two universes, so it's very interesting. You have Marvel and you have, and it's hard. It's easy to get them confused, right? DC is
people don't care.
Sunshiny, right?
Superhero normies like me, we don't give a fuck if it's
the Flash,
Marvel or DC. Yeah. Just give me a good superhero movie that I can eat popcorn to and enjoy. I don't give a shit.
Which one hasn't met that goal?
Well, I just...
You don't seem to have watched any of them. So.
Not in a long time.
You got kids.
Speaking of movies, have you since... I brought this up last week. Have you since caught up on this story about this U.S. representative with the meme he posted about the animation cartoon of Biden?
Paul Gosar.
Gosar, yes. That's the name I was searching for.
Censured.
I could not find it last week.
Yeah.
Referencing our one of many senior moments.
Yeah, and I totally took the title. Just for everybody's, the titles I'm usually pretty excited about because they're very clever. Obviously, when I saw the title of last week's episode, Senior Moment, I totally thought that Travis was ripping on me.
Yeah, you narcissistic fuck.
I know I had a pretty severe senior moment at some point during that podcast, although I haven't been able to hear it in the replay yet. But I'm not all the way through it. So
this Gosar character, that's how you say
Paul
his name?
Gosar.
So you now are familiar with the story.
Yeah, he put out an anime. He tweeted out an anime. I haven't watched it, so I'm gonna let me see. Do you know the whole story of what the anime was about? It portrayed violence against.
Yeah, I haven't seen it either.
AOC, I think, right?
Best I can gather, this I think this is an existing anime clip of something, and so Gosar, his face is superimposed on a character. There's a Biden face superimposed on a character and an AOC face superimposed on a character. And the Gosar character, I think, kills Biden or tries to light him on fire or something, and then threatens to do the same with AOC.
Right.
In a nutshell.
So the controversy on this is that a sitting U.S. legislator, I think he's a congressman.
He's in Congress. He's Arizona, I want to say.
That he would propagate this kind of thing with such extreme violence in it, and there was certainly a time when that would not have been accepted by either side of the aisle at all.
So that's the big controversy, if you want to call it that, is that Pelosi spoke on this, and so did AOC. You can't even listen to her talk. But that's and that's the whole.
Just don't get an anime thing. All right.
And that's the whole thing is, how can anybody say this is acceptable? It's right, and none of the Republicans denounced it, and so then
that would fall to Kevin McCarthy,
except for two. Maybe I think two did.
Yeah, he's the Kinzinger and Cheney, right?
Right.
And this is the thing where the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy, you would expect him to come out and chastise a member of his caucus for doing that, because that should be offensive to every member of Congress, especially in light of the recent violent riots and stuff propagated on January 6th. So, I mean, they're just completely unaware.
So I asked you this question, I think it was last week, about should members of Congress or elected officials be held to a higher standard? So this guy,
some standard.
He tweeted it. Now I don't know if he developed it, but he was involved in circulating it. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it that.
He tweeted it out.
Right. So,
and in so doing, any suggestion that this is not the case would be, not truthful. He endorsed it. He proposed it.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah. So I think I'm with you there. Now, where we might disagree, and I'm not even really too familiar with how this works, but the big news is that he was censured,
right, which is
by the House. And
should have happened. Kevin McCarthy should have censured him, and the entire Republican caucus should have got behind that.
So basically, one of the things I know that came out of it was he was, I think, on 2 committees, and they stripped him of his committee assignments.
Yeah.
So what is the censure
stuff was not too important.
But so you said the Republicans should have censured him or taken action. What does that mean? What can they actually do? And because they didn't, this came to some vote of the entire chamber. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it should have been Kevin McCarthy calling for the censure.
Right? I see. It still would have been the same procedure, except it would have been they wanted their own to stand up and say, "Hey, we don't tolerate this, and you guys clean it up."
Yeah, I mean, and then the Democrats would have voted along with a whatever you call it, a move to censure, and that's the right way to handle it, and that's the end of it. You don't send out a hit squad. You don't try to kill them.
So this is kind of where I'm going with this. Is everything that we've teed up about what this animation is and Gosar's involvement in endorsing it. That's all wrong, and he shouldn't have done that. The question I have is the action that the House took on him in this process of censorship. I think I read he's one of maybe 20-something reps that have ever been
not
censored. But he's one of only 20-something in all of U.S. history that they've done that to.
Yeah, it's not something that's done lightly.
Right. And so that's maybe where I look at that and I go, do we really need discipline, self-discipline in the House? And like I said on many topics, whether it's stacking the Supreme Court or railroading agenda items through with a simple majority vote, do we think, because I do, that this possibly opens the door for using this as a weapon, as a tool, when the shoe's on the other foot, and people being censured, I say that right, in the future for things, that when the other party's in power?
Well, I mean, is there a question there?
The question is that the
yes?
Yes, I know you think that, and I'm leaning towards no.
But I mean, ask the question again. I'm sorry.
The question of actually taking the action of punishment, which comes in the form of censorship.
Right. Censure. Yeah.
I'm not going to get it right.
All right. Go ahead. Ask the question.
So should they? I mean, what are we doing here? Is that what we want? Is we want members of Congress to be censuring each other for things like this? Because really, there's no other recourse, right? I mean, this guy was sent here. He was elected. He was sent there by the American people.
He wasn't sent there by any American people to do that.
Of course not. But he was. To me, it's analogous to the governor recall issue that we faced in California, which I did not support. So what I'm thinking in my mind,
how is it analogous to that?
Because in my mind, I'm thinking you have a process of disciplining somebody who was elected outside of the election process. Does that make sense?
Well, so assuming I have understood where you're going with this and your analogy to the recall, if you use the censure process in the Congress incorrectly, then I don't agree with it. The same way I don't agree if you use the recall process in California or any state that has a recall process incorrectly. I mean, in California, the recall move, the recall of Governor Newsom was not based on any malfeasance committed by the governor in his thing. It was simply a Republican move to just be Republican. I mean, it wasn't based on anything.
Well, it was based on freedom fighters. It wasn't just Republicans.
Nonsense.
Why we talked about that. The biggest funding didn't come from Republicans.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will tell you that it didn't have any popular support, and it wasn't based on any malfeasance that he committed in office. It was just a partisan bunch of bullshit. And yeah, so, you know, I mean, I'm not even a huge fan of that process being in place, and I don't really feel it's a good analogy to this. The censure rules in the Congress are there to inhibit members of Congress from making idiotic.
But see, therein lies the issue.
Damaging. I mean, it's just,
it doesn't do that though. And again, I'm not really understanding it. I can't even pronounce it. But what else is involved in censuring?
Well, I mean,
what does that mean? Does he have like a permanent mark on his record? Does that mean he can't hold another committee position? Does that mean
that I don't
if
know.
he does something else, they can actually boot him?
Well, I mean,
how much weight does it have?
There is a way for someone to be removed from Congress, but it would be a lot. You know, it would have to be more serious than this. Yeah, I mean, I guess if the question is, do I think that the censure process should be in place? I do, and I think it should be used correctly for what it was meant to be used for, to try to control, you know, this is outside of the lines of being in Congress, right? You're in Congress. So I think when you're a member of Congress, you're expected to behave in a certain way, and when you behave outside of those expectations, one of the process available to the body is censure.
Yeah. So did our other famous person in Congress, your favorite blonde, Marjorie Taylor Greene, has she been censured?
That's a good question. I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't remember
much
either.
Bullshit. You know, there's two of them. There is this, Gosar Hawley, who actually replaced the female senator from Wisconsin. I'm not going to think of her name, Claire something or other. Anyway, it looks like that was probably done on the back of some illegal campaign finance violations. So we'll see. That's Hawley I'm talking about. There's Bobart, right? And there's Marjorie Taylor Greene. So, I mean, off the top of my head, there's these four dipshits that, for my money, should all be removed, right? I mean, I think they've all collectively, I mean, some of the fucking hogwash that comes out of Bobart's mouth is unbelievable.
So really what we're saying is taking action based on people's behavior outside of their scope in their job performance, right? And
right. He's not being censured because of his political position on something. He's being censured because of this incredibly tasteless, dangerous meme he posted in social media.
But is this another, I said this earlier, is this another Pandora's box where you begin to look at behavior outside of, your job duties as a congressperson?
Let me give you an example. No, well, I mean, your activities outside of being a congressperson are up for public scrutiny when you're an elected official.
No doubt about that.
Right, and you're part of that body.
But should that be pulled into the chamber?
Let's say that Gosar did not put this animated meme, this anime meme, but he bought billboards and put a picture of Biden being buckfucked by a donkey. That would get him censured too.
I'm sure it would,
if not arrested outright. So
you think?
I mean, the thing is, I mean, that would be the thing if he.
I cannot get that image out of my head now.
There you go. But I mean, so what's more morally abhorrent.
He's wearing his aviators, by the way.
That image, or the image of, the violence of cutting off AOC's head or whatever in the wake of, that should not be accepted. That should not be accepted behavior by a member of Congress or the Senate. That should just not be accepted by the American people, and certainly not by that body. So I'm 100% in favor of that.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that particular behavior, but the question is it a slippery slope? Is there other behavior that will now start to look at things like questionable statements? Again, this Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's a nut job, right? And she's the one. I always get the color of the lasers wrong, but the lasers coming from the sky, to me, that sounds like questionable behavior, and whether or not you're qualified. People talk about Biden's mental health. That should be discussed as mental health.
I think it's been discussed. She's an overt, outright white supremacist. Okay, she needs to be taken out of the Senate, regardless of whether she was voted in there or not.
In the House, right?
In the House. Yeah. Sorry, yeah, she needs to be removed. Her behavior, her espousing white supremacist ideas, things like the Jewish spaceships or whatever the fuck it was that are starting to call, that should have got her kicked out right there and then. And
but we don't have a process for that,
right? She
may
have been censured for that. That might be because I do believe that she was removed from any committee responsibilities.
For that?
I think so, or
Wasn't
something similar.
Well, did she have involvement in the January 6th thing with either?
Yeah. She's one of the ones that's going to be excoriated by this report. She was right. Here's the thing, right? There's video of her, prior to the January 6th thing, talking about it. Just go find it. It's online. It's totally available.
Yeah, so that might be.
The committee already has it. So what are they going to recommend at the end of it?
Is there an impeachment process for members of Congress?
There is.
So you can remove somebody?
I think you can.
Okay.
I don't know that you have to. I don't know that they call it impeachment. I know that the body can, there are things, especially in the Senate, but I'm not too familiar with it, so I couldn't expound much farther than that. I think there's a process. I don't know that it's impeachment. Impeachment is there is impeachment for judges, and that does happen frequently, although impeachments for presidents have been a little bit on the rare side, thank God. There have been many judicial impeachments over the years.
So, to the best of your knowledge, though, the censure only removes things like privileges and committee assignments. It doesn't. Because it doesn't really stop the behavior.
And I think they obviously they can still vote, right? Well, here's the thing. Does it stop the behavior? Does censuring Gosar stop any behavior?
He seemed pretty
we'll
defiant.
Have to see,
he was
right?
pretty. Wasn't he defensive about it? He likened himself to Alexander Hamilton, and he said, "If I need to join the ranks of being censured, and
because I'm sure Hamilton was censured or something over something."
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
Well, oh my God, such a waste of time. Not for us. For us, it's good to talk about it, but this kind of distraction in the legislature is on the face of it is detestable, right? You just go to the fucking Congress and do your motherfucking job.
So are they going to allow him to do his job, or is he basically blacklisted?
He'll still be able to vote for when there's something to vote on, but they don't, as a group, as a caucus, they don't ever put forth any legislation, right?
Yeah, that really is kind of what I was getting at, is what can be done, which really sounds like nothing other than, waiting until his term is up and then people see what kind of a dude he is and then replace him.
What kind of a douche he is?
Douche.
Oh, douche or dude?
Dude.
Hopefully the name lives in infamy. I don't know what else to tell you, Boebert, Marjorie Taylor. Here's the bad news, right? Remember the time when I couldn't remember Marjorie Taylor Greene's name?
Yeah.
That's because she hadn't been a big enough asswipe to register into my consciousness, right?
And that's the shame.
And now Gosar, Holly. Why do I even know these fucking names?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like
I should not know the names of any Republican congressional representatives. They're not my representatives. I shouldn't know a fucking thing about them.
And this is the problem with politics. The problem with politics is that we know people's names on the left because they make bad policy. And we know people's names on the right because they're fucking crazy.
Oh, my God. Well, I mean, some of that I can agree with, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out which parts.
I don't know. The craziness, maybe it comes from religion. The craziness, like I said earlier in the podcast about getting rid of religion because, that's my platform, my thing. There's another story about another inmate who's going to be executed. I want to say in Oklahoma. And like literally the clock is ticking. So by the time people hear this, there might be a decision on this.
Dead.
And the governor of Oklahoma has denied a request to hear from this inmate. I think that's a thing that you can request to speak to the governor. And sometimes maybe they do
a
it.
Stay.
A stay, yes.
Get a stay.
And the governor has denied it.
Here's the thing: you don't you're a death row inmate. You don't request to talk to the governor to talk about sports. Hey, Gov, I just want to have one last discussion about
I asked
baseball team.
Last week we talked about this particular inmate who wanted to have his religious person by his side, and
that's not who you're talking about?
No, this is a different one.
Okay.
So that was denied for religious purposes, right, or security purposes.
Security,
and it was all bullshit. But it had
pretty
to do
dangerous pastor coming in there.
Yeah, but it had to do with religion.
Well, he wanted to bring in an AK-47.
Well, whatever.
Into the room.
So some people are going to die, and so is the guy on death row.
Carry.
But this other one in Oklahoma, he just I think he claims he didn't do it. So the one I referenced last week, this guy admits that he was the murderer. He accepts his punishment. He accepts his sentence that he's going to die. He just wants, his particular religion of choice with him at his side when he dies.
And have him be able to lay a hand.
Yeah. This new case, this guy is claiming that he is innocent. And this speaks to kind of the broader picture of what you talk about all the time, is that the death sentence in general, we're probably putting more innocent people to death, and we need to figure that out.
Can I just clarify something?
Sure.
In a year plus, I have mentioned the death penalty one time. That was in the
is that
last
it?
podcast. I don't talk about it all the time.
No, I
go
know.
ahead.
Maybe you've mentioned it off the air. I don't know. But that is your position.
I am not a
and there's growing evidence.
fan of the death penalty. But if you kill somebody I know, then I'd be happy to put you to death.
Exactly. And I'm in favor of death when it's justified.
It's not a big issue to me one way or the other. I'm hoping to stay off death row if I can. Who knows? The way the temper's going, I could end up there. So
yeah, no shit.
This might be a more important issue than I know.
So here's where I'm going with
yeah.
this. This fucking governor, this is Oklahoma.
Democratic governor?
I don't know.
Likely
I don't think so.
Not in Oklahoma.
And now he says he's praying over it. He's praying. He's contemplating his decision by praying, talking to Jesus about what to do with this particular
that's a
inmate.
big seller in Oklahoma.
And that's the thing. I was thinking exactly that. Is he saying that because that gets him votes in Oklahoma, or is he really just praying because Jesus is going to tell him what to do with this inmate? And it's a famous case.
Can I give you a little clue?
Yeah.
Jesus never tells anybody anything. That
of
just
course
does not happen.
I understand.
I don't care if you're a Republican politician or not. Jesus does not talk to you.
So when we talk about things, I'm all over the place today, but when we talk about things like judging people's behavior outside of their work performance, if you talk to an imaginary guy in the sky, I would think that you're fucking crazy.
Well, I mean,
but yet we accept it when it's Jesus.
I think that falls under the somehow the auspices of public, citing religious intervention or consultation of some manner is accepted by the public for elected government officials, and that alone, on the face of it, doesn't seem to gather much response from the public in general.
I know.
I mean, it doesn't seem to gather. I mean, I don't see throngs of people demonstrating in support of talking about how you are praying to Jesus to make a decision. So this governor has said publicly that he's praying about what to do about the request from this.
Yeah, the decision.
This guy's to talk
life.
To him.
This guy's life is literally in the governor's hands at the moment.
He could commute the sentence if he wanted to.
That, or even a stay, is what, just delaying it?
Well, stay would be delaying it until something or other is.
Yeah, so he could do both things. He could do either or he could say flip the switch and the guy's gone. But he He's been sent to the governor's mansion by the people of Oklahoma to
Right.
make decisions on behalf of the citizens of Oklahoma.
Right.
And yet the people are now he's consulting with Jesus to get the answer.
I guess some of the questions I mean, giving this subject some credence because why not? I mean, let's assume that the people of Oklahoma, by and large, are religious and would expect some type of religious influence to affect their governor. And I would imagine that if the governor of Oklahoma, that always makes you want to bust out in song. There's some musical or something.
What, the governor of Oklahoma?
Oklahoma. No, there's a Broadway musical or something named Oklahoma, right?
Is there?
Yeah, I'm not going to sing. But Oklahoma. Anyway, I would assume that the people of Oklahoma would not be offended by the governor of that state saying publicly that he is praying about this decision. Now, I don't want to offend anybody. It's not really my goal today.
Oh, it's not?
So, yeah, well, some days it is. Today it's really not. But I would just say that, for me, it's gobbledygook to hear anybody talk about praying about anything. I know people that will say that sincerely, I assume. But when I hear a government official say it, I always dismiss it outright because not likely you have a shred of moral fiber in you if you're the governor of any place.
But think about that. Here we are, the United States, one nation under God.
Are we going to do the Pledge of Allegiance right here? Should we start the program?
Should we? We don't have a flag in here. Do we need one?
Well, I mean, as far as they know, we have a flag.
Oh, yeah, it's right there. Let's stand and let's do the pledge. We're going to start over. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Can we do, what do they call the thing where you pray right after you do the
invocation.
Invocation.
When we do that,
you're invoking God.
So that's, we find ourselves in professional settings sometimes where there is an invocation.
Right.
I never invocate. I never bow my head.
Either.
I don't close my eyes.
I look around.
I look around the room and I'm like, which one of these are sheep over here?
Next time I'm gonna, because I'm often in that room with you. Next time I'm gonna try to make eye contact with you while that's going on. What I like are when we do the Pledge of Allegiance on Zoom calls. That's really
that
stupid.
Is so retarded. That's the same thing as people wearing masks on Zoom, which I have seen.
Why the fuck would you do that?
It's virtue signaling.
I mean, some people. Please wear the mask. Please, that would be great. We enjoy you wearing a mask, right? In fact, it was you that suggested with my mustache mishap from last week that I should maybe wear the mask. I know you can't. Now I'm going to hide it.
No, you didn't shave today, did you?
I shaved yesterday.
Yeah, you got some. You got a couple weeks to go to even that out.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's a mess. I am not decided yet. It may just go and start over, so it'll be even. So. But continue.
Okay, so this whole
bearded one,
this
grizzly,
this whole Jesus thing, it's socially accepted because we are this one nation under God. I've said this before that I think sooner rather than later we will have a U.S. president elected and sworn in either without the Bible or maybe perhaps on another religious book. I don't know. Maybe they're not all in book form. I think
it's going to be a while before you see anybody put their hand on the Quran.
Do you?
I don't think that's going to happen anytime
what's
soon.
a while?
Oh, after my time.
I don't know about that, my friend.
Look, we have a lot of other. We need to have a gay president. We need to have a woman president. Both of which are right around the corner, right?
Yeah,
there
for
are
sure.
many.
Right
AOC
there.
will be president.
Oh,
Buttigieg
please
will be
don't ever say that out loud. That is such a terrible thought.
I did that for your benefit.
She's so terrible.
I don't think she's going to be president. But
God, I hope not. Please go away.
There may be.
I'm praying to Jesus.
Okay.
Dear Jesus, please send AOC far, far away and never have her return ever again. Thank you, O Lord Jesus. I love you.
In my nephew's Sunday school class, I guess, they taught him to say this, and when he hasn't done it for a long time, but he used to do it, and when we would request him to do it, maybe say the grace. When we have meals with religious members of the family, we're perfectly happy to say grace if they would like to, so they can be in compliance with their requirements. And he has done it a couple of times, and he would say da 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 da. thank you, Jesus. I love you in my heart. It's kind of cute, right?
Yeah, it is cute.
Yeah. So
With kids, it's cute. I get it.
yeah.
And we lie to our kids for good reasons. I mean, we lie about Santa Claus and Tooth
Do
Fairy.
your kids believe in God?
Well, I think so. And
Okay.
so I'll tell you a story. We
Okay.
did a couple weeks ago for Halloween. We did this. I don't know if I told you this trunk or treat. You know what those are?
No.
Where you know families gather and you have your car.
You let your kids go up to people's trunks.
Yeah, but you do it at the school.
Okay.
So at the school parking lot, and you
Wow.
you have your car and you decorate it and you have candy.
Oh, wow.
And you kind of keep everybody. It's a safe environment and you
Keep them off the street.
keep them off the street.
Okay.
So we were there, and there's some other kids that my daughter is friends with, and so we were meeting a lot of the parents for the first time.
Yeah.
And some of the parents had some wine, you know, it was a Friday night, and they were walking around, and there was music, and why not? It's a fun environment.
Right.
And there was a boy that my daughter likes, and so we met his mom, and she had some wine, and you know she seemed kind of young and hip and not stuffy. You understand where I'm going with this?
Well, she's in a school parking lot drinking wine. Yeah, not stuffy.
She's not stuffy. And so at one point, you know, we're her and I were talking a little bit, and then my daughter looks up in the sky and she sees a bright star, and she goes, "Dad, look, it's Jesus." And
Your
this,
daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then this mom looked at me and then walked away. And I think she thought I was like some crazy religious guy. So I
Why
told
did your daughter say that?
I don't know.
Why?
Because it's cute when kids say it.
Right.
So I told my wife, I said, when you see her next time, you tell her we're not Jesus-y.
That is a great story. Hey, look, Dad, it's Jesus. You didn't quash your dreams of
No, you
religious,
can't because it's cute when kids do it.
Okay.
You know, when they say Jesus is in my heart, what are you going to say?
Go something like this. That's not Jesus.
Afterwards, I said, give me all your candy. You're not having any of that.
Wow, that's cool. That's cool.
But listen, I'm just a regular guy. If you have people in politics who are elected and they start talking about Jesus, is that the same questionable behavior where, you know, it's not the same gravity and the same, you know, issue as this Gosar guy and his meme, but I'm just thinking out loud here. Do we really have to question the judgment? Will we come to a point in time where we question the judgment of people who are relying on an imaginary guy in the sky?
Well, I think, look, I understand your question. I think
Have I offended enough people
I
on
think
that
the
one?
answer is probably no. But I mean, the other flip side of that, and the reality is that you do incorporate the amount of religiosity that you see on display from any politician into your opinion about him. So, I mean, if I see a politician on TV and there's no mention of anything about religion, I don't think more or less about him. If I hear them incorporate some reference to God or religion or Jesus or something in their public comments about something, that I definitely
I'm with you.
Definitely does go into my judgment
Negatively,
of where
right?
they're at. Well, probably because I'm not a big fan of mixing politics and religion in any way. I think there should be a distinct and clear separation between church and state. Unlike you, I don't care if there's a church. You seem to want it to be abolished. I don't care, but I do want the church and state line to remain solidly, in place.
But we can't because we still swear people in on a Bible.
We're
one nation under God.
Let's not mistake ritual with real things, right? I mean, the ritual of swearing somebody in on a Bible, of swearing somebody in to testify in a court on a Bible, those things are rituals,
but they have meaning.
They could be
Isn't the meaning that listen, this is such a serious moment, like the court example. You will tell the truth because if you lie, yes, you'll go to jail, but the Almighty God will strike you down and you'll go to hell.
I mean, I think that's
supposed to strike fear in you.
I think that's the implication of the history of that ritual. Okay, and I don't see a need to get rid of the ritual one way or the other. I think we all know rituals when we see them, and I think we accord the appropriate amount of gravitas to any given ritual, right? I mean, you can take that as far as you want, Travis. I mean, people get married, and there's a lot of ritual involved in that ceremony. You don't need a ceremony at all to get married, right? So, I mean, the amount of ceremony you have, the amount of ritual that you engage in is just a personal thing.
I tell my daughter, do not have a big wedding. I'm not paying for it.
Well, of course, because you want to be a millionaire, and that's not going to. I mean, you want to be a multimillionaire because everybody you know is probably a millionaire at this point. If you have a 401k, and it's not enough. That's what I'm going to tell you, right? That's not enough. I'm a millionaire, but it's not enough money. So
you gotta invest in your crypto.
I know. Speaking of which, what's the word?
Oh, it's bad. My crypto's taking a shellacking.
Ethereum going the wrong way. Huh?
Yeah, I have Ethereum and Bitcoin.
Ooh.
And this week has been pretty bad.
Has it? Here's what I'm going to tell you. Here's all I know about crypto. It's not currency. It's commodity.
Yeah, you said that last week, but at the end of the day,
I'm just repeating something I heard.
What I like about it is we're simply talking about what people are willing to trade, what value we give it. And I think I gave you an example. I mean, if you and I want to trade whatever, a car for a boat, we should be able to do that because we get to agree on the intrinsic value of those items.
I think we mentioned this too in the last podcast or the one before. There was a recent scam, crypto scam that a lot of people fell victim to. Their own fault, I think, because people are greedy and lazy. That when you can zone in on those two qualities of the humans, you can typically pull off a lot of sketchy shit. Right?
So we're at this kind of, I don't know, this fork in the road of crypto because you can't ignore it. It's not going away. It's in its infancy. The dust will settle. It's kind of like, the .com bubble of 99 or 2000, I think. But here you have two big, did you see this? Famously in Los Angeles, we have the Staples Center where the Lakers play. There will be a name change. I don't know if you saw this story.
To
crypto, I think it's crypto.com.
For what?
Is going to be the name on the Staples Center. There's
instead of Staples, the business supply store?
Yes, that's right. And
really?
Yes. A $750 million 20-year deal to name it. I want to say it's crypto.com. I want to say that's a Singapore-based company, cryptocurrency. Maybe it's an exchange platform. I don't know. They agreed, and they just struck a deal on the naming rights.
So
20 years.
What will we call that then?
Crypto Arena.
Crypto Arena.
Yeah, I think it's crypto.com arena.
Wow. I don't know, something about SC, Staples Center, that kind of flows. Crypto Arena. I think because C comes after A, when you transpose them like that, because the other one was Staples Center, that doesn't work. S comes after C. So I don't know why it doesn't really roll off the tongue.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, but that's a big gamble, right?
What we used to call, I grew up in Inglewood and I watched them build the Forum.
Right.
And then it became known, and
the Great Western
originally it
Forum.
was the Forum.
Yes.
And then eventually it became known as the Great Western Forum.
Because of Great Western Bank.
Right. And obviously I now live close to another sports concert venue, the Pond, which is it used to be called the Arrowhead Pond
of Anaheim.
And now it's the Honda Center.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the name changes kind of went. I mean, it took a while. Still refer to it as the Pond, although I would never accidentally or on purposely refer to it as Arrowhead Pond because Arrowhead is no longer associated with it. Do I call it Honda Center? I might call it Honda Center. I can see that logo in my mind. The Forum is always just the Forum to me. Staples Center will probably always be Staples Center.
Or just Staples. I would just called it Staples. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it took a long time before I even figured out that that was the Staples was the sponsor. I just thought it was the name.
But think about
I wanted to call it Clippers Stadium, so that's what I thought it should be, right? Should it be the Lakers Dome or something? Lakers.
But see, here's the thing. Those two, the Lakers and the Clippers, are sports franchises that are owned by, ownership, right?
Right.
And the building is not owned by those two teams. So it's basically one giant billboard.
Well, it's everything, right? I mean, all the big venues like that they all kind of have names, but then they all go by their commercial sponsor.
That's exactly what it is. So. But this particular example is really
Crypto Center?
Crypto Arena.
That's not going to work.
Well, it's a 20-year deal, right? So they obviously think that crypto's here to stay, and the Staples Center, or whoever the owners of the Staples Center are, think that this is something that is going to be around because they took
Did
the money.
Give them $750 million up front?
I don't know.
Here's the thing, right? So 20-year deal, it's $750 million over 20 years most likely. And so when crypto bites the dust and goes away,
bless you, my child.
They'll just get a new sponsor.
Well, yeah, they will. Of course, the owners of the building.
We're not doomed to this stupid fucking name for the next 20 years.
Well, maybe, I don't know, but that's the thing: is crypto here to stay or not? We have places like China who doesn't want anything to do with it.
Bitcoin's been around for over 14 years, I think, right? So,
close to that, yeah.
Right. So, I mean, how long does it have to be here before we say, yeah, it's here to stay?
Because the question is, how will it evolve? Like, I read something the other day, and as you touted, Infrastructure Week, the bill is signed, hallelujah, everything's great.
Infrastructure Week.
Of course, as I always complain about, the politics are fucked up, and it's not just infrastructure. I'm pretty sure I read there was something.
This infrastructure bill was all hard infrastructure, right? Don't get it confused with the human infrastructure, which is not passed and may not pass, right?
There's something in there, though. Some pork in there that has nothing to do with infrastructure, that has to do with crypto.
Everybody loves everything in the infrastructure.
No, they don't.
Well,
I don't like this crypto thing.
All the hypocritical Republican Congress people are going to go around and tell their constituents how they got them $1 billion in pork for this, that, and the other. Right? They're going to take credit for it when they voted against it. I made that point multiple times.
Listen, if there are 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon pork in there, I'm okay with that. If there's things that you could, maybe make the argument that it's infrastructure related, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I don't see how crypto is an increased regulatory scrutiny and reporting to the IRS your crypto ownings. I think that's wrong.
I don't know. I don't think that's, who knows, right? Is there going to be a way to tax crypto? I mean, if
it's, dude, crypto literally changes every 2 seconds.
Yeah.
So the whole idea of taxing wealth, some things like real estate don't change that much over a year, let alone 30 days, let alone an hour. But, crypto could be worth, crypto can go up and down 20% every day.
They might not tax it because they don't think it really has any value.
Well, I'd be happy with that.
It's, I think that, and I'm going to step right outside of my actual knowledge base here, but, and one of the ones you've invested in, and now you've told me you've invested in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But Ethereum is a blockchain technology. It's not a currency thing. There is a currency associated with it, but it's really more about blockchain technology. Bitcoin is blockchain, but Bitcoin is about currency. There are actual coins, right? That you don't ever get them. You buy Bitcoin, you don't get any of those coins, but there actually was at one time, they're not creating non-fungible tokens, right? Necessarily. So I don't know. There's a lot to it. I think there may be a place for blockchain, but I don't know what it is yet.
But through digital crypto wallets, it doesn't matter if you have blockchain or crypto coins. You can show something of value.
Don't lose that wallet.
Yeah, don't lose it. There's actually encryption and authenticators, and you have to get codes, rolling codes that change like a bank token.
Right.
But if you have something of value, you and we can agree through the value of our crypto wallets and our digital holdings to exchange that for whatever we want.
Yeah, I give you this for X amount of Ethereum.
Right. And tomorrow, either one of us could be the benefactor or the loser of that exchange because shit could tank. So it is deregulated, but on the surface, I'm really, really intrigued by this because on one hand, there's safety and security in regulated currency. For many, many years, U.S. citizens.
You should be intrigued by it because it sounds like you've got one of your kids' college education tied up in your investment.
It's not nothing, I'll tell you that.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But people were encouraged to save, buy bonds. You could make a decent return by holding on to money, U.S. dollar. That's all out the window. We've talked about inflation. So to me, creative ways to hedge your bet or get on the other side of inflation, I think, is pretty cool. And what makes it cool and a gamble is that it's not regulated. And I kind of hope it stays that way.
Well, I hope so too, for your benefit. You kind of told me, and I'm not going to repeat it on the air, but you kind of told me how much you put into at least one of those things, and it's not nothing, like you said. You just brought up something, saving bonds, or something like
bonds,
that.
Yeah.
So just the other day, I broke something out. I went into I have a safe, right, and I went into my safe and I was seeing what was in there because Debbie puts things in, takes things out. So I was in it looking around, and I remembered something I found in there was a whole bunch of savings bonds for my parents. So there's several $1,000s in savings bonds of different denominations. They are not continuing to accrue in value. They're fully mature. So I'm just idiotically sitting on them, not doing anything.
And you have actual paper, right? But you don't get those anymore, I don't think.
I don't think so. They have computer punch holes.
That's cool.
I mean, they're kind of cool, and I could frame them or something, but I want the money. So
I don't have any bonds, but are they issued to somebody's name? Do you own those?
I do believe they were issued in my father's name. So my sister and I, actually, half and half. We're the living heirs. And the only reason why we haven't cashed them in is because I have them and she doesn't. And
will you cash them in and give her share?
Yeah. We've already kind of been through that. Both my parents have passed away, and when that happened, for simplicity's sake, my mom was in charge of this at the time, and there had been a slight falling out with my sister's husband, her and my sister's husband, and she put everything in my name. So, and then told me, hey, you split this with your sister, but do it directly with her. I don't want to leave them to her because she was no legal scholar, if you know what I mean. She didn't want the son-in-law to have access to it because some things had happened, and it was all kind of a waste of time. But yeah,
talk about cryptocurrency. This is a cryptic conversation.
I know. Got all that. I split it all with her. But this is the last thing. At the time, I didn't have a working computer. I had a broken down Windows 95 computer, and this was I'm going to say 2001 or something, right? And I had a Windows 95 computer that was barely functioning. I mean, it was and it was a desktop. It was a desktop, and so I couldn't really make a decent spreadsheet in it or anything. It wasn't functioning enough. And so I just put it all away until I bought a computer. I was going to get a laptop, and then I never got back to it. It's just been sitting there for the last 20
You still have
years.
it?
The computer?
Yeah.
No. I threw it away. I took the hard drive out and smashed it up, and just because I didn't know anything at the time. So I just
it was pretty advanced of you before spying through technology and computers was a thing.
I know. So I just need to really put the bonds into a spreadsheet, and I think I've got the death certificates that I need, and then take them to a bank and redeem them. I think, but I need a letter from my sister, and then we'll split the money. It's just a few.
Buy some crypto with it.
Yeah, good idea. Turn real value into nothing.
You're not making any money just sitting in your safe.
No, they're not. They're not. I'm going to combine it with my stimulus money, which is sitting in my bank account, not stimulating.
You got to put it to use.
I'm going to put it to use. It's part of my multi-million-dollar retirement package. It is amazing now, to just look at the numbers and look at them and go, yeah, Jesus, that's probably not enough. Right? I mean, the goal used to be, I think I am old enough to say that there was a long period of time where the idea of being a millionaire, wow, if I was a millionaire, I'd have nothing to worry about.
Of course. Like, go back to Gilligan's Island.
If I was a millionaire, if I was just a millionaire now, I would have nothing to worry. I mean, I would have everything to worry about. That won't last through $1 million will not last 30 years.
Absolutely not.
Right.
And people are living longer. But remember the millionaire and his wife on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
It was even in the song.
Was he just a millionaire?
He was just a millionaire. And he dressed like, one of those little shitty yacht owners with the cap on.
Well, I've been a thousandaire for a long time. but that doesn't get you in any clubs.
No, it doesn't. And like
be millionaire doesn't get you in any clubs.
And with the price of everything, that's just going to be eroded. You got to get on the front side of that.
Yeah, well, I guess the good news is I'm aware of that.
And you have time. You have conquered the cholesterol battle, and now you can conquer the inflation battle.
Yeah. So I'm going to cash in my savings bonds because they're done. They're mature, so they're not going to get worth any more. They're worth more than the face value around them. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's so at least it's done some good.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I got to wrap it up today. I have to go conquer the fix my neck battle. So.
Oh, that's right. You have a.
I'm short on time.
Eastern. Is this Eastern medicine?
Today, yes, I have acupuncture.
Okay, good. I could fix that for you with a crescent wrench and a screwdriver.
You want to give it a try?
No, that's it. I'll let
That's
you go.
been making. I've gone a couple of times.
That's good.
It's fantastic.
That's good.
And I fucked it up again this morning, so I'm really looking forward to today's treatment.
In your workout, did one of your playmates twist your neck?
Something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then that's good. We will see you all
on the other side.
Yeah, on the other side.
All right,
Thanks,
everybody.